I've got a little challenge for you, Stark. A new recruit. It's a tough case, but I want him treated in the usual manner. Train him for the games, let him hope for a while, and blow him away.
You got it. I've been hoping you'd send me somebody with a little bit of guts. What kind of program is he?
It's not any kind of program, Stark. He's a user.
A user?
That's right. He pushed me in the real world. Somebody pushes me, I push back, so I brought him down here.
The Master Control program delivers an ultimatum in Tron, the new computer game fantasy from Walt Disney Productions. That's one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Sneak Previews. Across the aisle from me, Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And this is Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, in addition to Tron, we'll also be reviewing The Devil's Playground, an Australian film about the guilt-ridden life of inhabitants of a seminary. Also, Gregory's Girl, a Scottish rites of passage film about the teenage boy's first love. But first, Roger begins with an animated feature called The Secret of NIMH.
Well, our first movie is a delightful animated feature. It's called The Secret of NIMH, and let's stop right there with that title. Now, NIMH is spelled N-I-M-H, and no doubt some people are going to be asking, probably right now they're asking, if those initials could possibly stand for the National Institute of Mental Health. Well, probably a lot of other people aren't asking themselves that, but curiously enough, that's exactly what those initials do stand for, because this movie is a fantasy about a group of rats and mice, laboratory animals, whose intelligence skyrockets after they're given secret injections in the laboratories of the National Institute of Mental Health. And they get so smart, they escape, they set up their own civilization hidden in a barnyard, and in this scene, one of the mice, a timid little widow, goes to the wise old philosopher owl for advice about her sick child.
Why have you come?
Please, forgive me for disturbing you, but my son's life is in great danger. The plow has come early this year.
Move your family.
Yes, I would move, but Timothy has pneumonia. He can't even get out of bed.
You must move to a place where it'll be safe from the plow.
Please, there must be another way.
There is no other way. I must bid you good evening,
Mrs. Brisby.
Brisby? Mrs. Jonathan Brisby?
Why, yes. He was my husband. But how do you know about him?
That is not important. I will say this. His name is not unknown in these woods.
Please, sir. I'll do anything to save Timmy. Anything.
There is a way. Go to the rats.
You can notice there one of the best qualities of The Secret of NIMH, and that's the film's detailed and painstaking animation. A lot of new animated movies try to cut corners on the expensive old traditional animation procedures, but The Secret of NIMH creates not just animated movement like on Saturday morning TV, but also elaborate imaginary locations, backgrounds, wonderfully detailed characters, and as you can see in the next scene, a lot of body language. When the characters talk, it's not just their lips that move, their whole body gets into the act.
I don't suppose you would remember me.
Yes, you're Mrs. Brisby. And I'm sorry about your husband's death. Now, if you'd excuse me.
Mr. Ages!
Great Jupiter, woman, what do you want?
Mr. Ages, I know you don't like visitors, but this is an emergency. Please.
Madam, that is an emergency.
Oh, Mr. Ages, my son Timothy is so sick.
Timmy? The one with the spider bite? Oh, just give him some Pepsi-Cicero.
No, he's sick with a fever.
Well, I suppose I could fix up something.
Oh, thank you.
Follow me, but don't touch anything. Understand?
I do appreciate it.
Just how high is his fever?
It's burning hot to the touch.
Yes.
He's soaking wet with perspiration.
Yes.
And there's a raspy sound when he breathes.
A raspy sound, you say? Does he have a chill?
Yes, he does.
Have you wrapped him in a blanket?
Yes.
Now step inside, but keep your hands to yourself. I'm right in the middle of something very important.
I understand.
Oh, do you? Oh, look at this mess. Oh, shoot, go on. Your son has pneumonia.
Pneumonia?
It's not uncommon, but you can die from it.
Oh, please, dear God, no.
The Secret of NIMH widens out from that story of one troubled little mouse into a saga about a whole civilization in peril. Those rats and mice have grown so intelligent they've even developed ethical feelings. They start feeling guilty about sponging off of human civilization, and they have a great debate. Should they remain as trespassers in the barnyard or go off somewhere else and start their own new society? Well, that's an interesting premise. Might be a little deep for some younger kids, but I think they'll like the exciting animation. The Secret of NIMH was made by a group of animators led by a man named Don Bluth. They used to work for the Disney studios, but they walked out because they thought the original Disney traditions were no longer being followed. And my notion is Walt Disney would have liked The Secret of NIMH.
Well, I think he would have, too. I didn't like the opening of the picture. I thought Mrs. Brisby was a little bit of a twerp. And Dom DeLuise does the voice of a big crow in the picture, a big bird. And it seemed to be like, you know, a Jungle Book kind of thing where the voice dominates some of the characters. But once they get into the world of the rats, once this little timid mouse is placed in genuine peril, and this whole society of rats and their various personalities, including a ruthless would-be leader, then I thought the picture really took off and did give me some of the magic of the old Disney films.
One of the things it had that a lot of recent animated films have not had, I think, was depth. Depth in terms of character and depth of situations.
And you kept going
when
to
you
new
saw
places.
Mr. Age's laboratory there, for example, there was a whole lot of detail in the background, and there seemed to be a lot there. Oftentimes with animated films, you feel, well, it's so one-dimensional. It's all on the surface.
And they only take you to one or two spots. This film keeps, as she goes through the forest, we get to newer and more interesting places. A good film. The Devil's Playground, our next movie, is the first feature film made by the extremely talented Australian director Fred Skepsey, who went on to make such fine films as Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith and then Barbarossa, a Western we reviewed here not too long ago. And it is on the strength of those films that his first picture, The Devil's Playground, is now being released around the country, painting the portrait of life in an Australian seminary in the early 1950s, where young boys are told not to bathe in the nude. A bathing suit is more appropriate. And that's not all. The bottom line at this mission is that the body is evil, and that bodily urges, sexual urges, are to be resisted at the cost of losing one's mind and presumably entrance to heaven. That's quite a burden to give to a youngster, but that message is delivered by the brothers to the students, as in this counseling session.
At your age, Smith, you may have noticed certain changes taking place in your body. Hair growing in places it wasn't before. You may have been having what are called wet dreams. Do you know what wet dreams are?
Yes, brother.
Have you experienced them? Well, these changes are called puberty. There's nothing to worry about. Just your body is growing into manhood, and you're experiencing for yourself one of the miracles of life.
What's it about?
What lifts this film out of the ordinary is that director Skepsey also shows the burden placed on the brothers, the teaching order, in teaching the doctrines of fear of one's body. In this scene of confession, of course, the boy is going to be traumatized, but so too, less obviously, is the father confessor.
Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's 1 week since my confession.
Yes.
Father,
Yes, come on, lad. You don't have to be shy with me.
It's not easy, Father.
Well, what's the matter? Have you been abusing yourself, have you? No good trying to hide it if you have.
It's more than that, Father.
Don't be so ridiculous, lad. Whatever it is, tell me and I've done with it.
I've made 17 bad confessions and 119 bad communions.
You what? How could you? You're imagining it. Stop wasting my time with your silly scruples and let's get on with it.
It's not scruples, Father. I've been abusing myself and I haven't confessed it.
Rubbish. What are you talking about? Why?
Because I was scared, Father.
Scared? Scared of what?
Scared of you, Father.
Scared of me? Why? Rubbish. How often do these acts occur?
2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times a week? You better get a hold of yourself, my lad.
A day, Father.
A day? You're wasting my time. You're too old for this sort of nonsense. I'm going to absolve you now, and don't you be coming in here with such nonsense again. Scared of me, indeed. You'll be saying 3 decades of the rosary as penance and praying to Our Lady to keep you pure. And stop telling me lies. Say the act of contrition now and be off with you. Quick.
Oh, my God.
There you go, Taya.
The Devil's Playground is an autobiographical film. Many of these events apparently did happen to the film's director, but to his credit, he presents them not in a tirade, but in a more calm, methodical fashion that makes their horror and pain, and sometimes there's a little humor there, that much more telling. It's always a lot of fun to come across an early film of a director you've grown to respect and to find the seeds of his talent in these early pictures, and it's all there in The Devil's Playground with director Skepsi, as is his hallmark, giving us a fine sense of place as well as character. And by place, I mean that in all of his films, the environment, the physical environment, here, this pastoral, perfect natural setting takes on a whole business as a character. It's perfect, untrammeled. What's the problem? Isn't the spirit of these kids the same way?
Not only is the place a very specifically seen thing in this film, but also the people are too. You know, there have been a lot of plays recently on Broadway and elsewhere about fantasies and fevered imaginations and memories from growing up Catholic in the 1950s, when, according to some of these plays, nothing was ever discussed except sex, and that wasn't discussed either. You know?
Right. Not official.
Right. In this film, although from the clips that we looked at, it seems as if sex is a preeminent issue, and it is in a way, the movie is really about the community. It's about how these people live together and work together and get along with each other, and the different personalities and how they interact, and we get to know them, the different brothers and how they behave. And that was interesting to me. I thought that was a lot more interesting than if he had gone ahead and just made it into some kind of a would-be black comedy about sexual repression.
It's not a comedy. I think that I got a great deal of feeling for the pressure that is put on the brothers there. It was something that you don't normally find focus in a film like this. Normally it's how wrong they are, but what they labor under is, I think, what this man is also showing us. And that makes the film special.
Real interesting film. Our next movie is from Scotland. It's a charming, whimsical adolescent love story. It's named Gregory's Girl. The movie takes place during several tortured, ecstatic days in the life of Gregory, who is a gangling, bashful, really likable kid who's the completely inept goalie on the school soccer team. Well, one day, a girl named Dorothy tries out for the team, and she turns out to be a natural athlete. Gregory falls head over heels in love with her. But how does she feel about Gregory? Well, I don't know. She knows he likes her. She sort of likes him. She's not above flirting a little bit with him, but she doesn't want to get too serious. She wants to kind of win his heart without hurting his feelings. In other words, she's just as absolutely confusing and totally baffling as most teenage girls.
Have you got any Band-Aids in here? There's none next door.
No. Maybe. I'll get some.
Don't panic. It's just a scratch. I only want to stop my tights getting blood on them. Big gorilla on the left wing. I got him back. I got my boot on his shin and scraped it right down. Big animal.
You'll have a bruise there.
Not if I let it bleed. That's the idea. I don't bruise easily.
I do. I bruise like a peach. Bruise.
See that? I was only 3 when that happened. I was chasing a boy on the beach. I wasn't going to hurt him. I fell on a bottle. That'll never go away. I'm marked for life. I'm imperfect.
Oh, no, it's nice. I like it.
Really?
Yeah. I hurt my arm once, at the joint. I can't get it any higher than this. Used to be able to get it way up here.
You just did.
No, it's this arm. It's stuck.
Look at this, then. My big brother threw a bike at me. I was only 7. I can only see it in the mirror. It's quite nice, isn't it? Nice shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
The chemistry that's going on there is just wonderful. I'd like to look at that scene again. It's just funny the way they're aware of each other and being polite and feeling things they're not talking about. Once Gregory falls for Dorothy, which of course he inevitably and instantly does, all sorts of questions emerge, such as, does she like him? Would she go out with him? Should he even ask her? What if she says no? Gregory's Girl brought back memories of my own high school years when guys spent so much energy just thinking about asking a girl out and anticipating she'd probably say no and just laugh at you. By the time they finally did ask her out, it was with such a kind of strangled lack of confidence, it inspired a rejection.
Or she graduated.
Or she graduated by the time you got up your nerve. Right. Where can a guy turn for helpful advice on the mysteries of women in a situation like this? Maybe his own kid sister.
You need some new trousers. These baggy ones are awful. I'll talk to Mum about it. Blue ones, Italian. If you're going to start falling in love, you'll have to start taking care of yourself.
Are Italians good dressers?
Yeah, they make nice trousers. They've got style. I was talking to Stephen's sister about Dorothy. She's very attractive. I knew you'd fall for that type.
She's quarter Italian.
Don't get too serious about her if you can help it. Have you asked her out yet? I can help you. I can tell you things. I'm a girl. You were nice to me when other boys hated their sisters.
I love the way Gregory there, who probably doesn't believe his little sister knows anything about anything, solemnly and earnestly listens to her wonderful, deep insights about women. Gregory's Girl is one of the rare movies these days with the courage to admit that some teenagers can still be slightly immature and insecure. It remembers adolescence, it observes it lovingly with sympathy and good humor, and with what teenage boys probably need most of all in a situation like this, compassion.
Yeah, it is a very cute film. I thought at times it got a little too cute. I thought I was seeing that Gregory kept doing shtick. The actor was doing bits. Some of them are very good and true. When he keeps moving closer to her in that locker room thing, he just keeps moving. He's this force and it's sort of herky-jerky. That has its own truth that goes beyond any of the dialogue. I think you make a very good point when you say about having the courage to show a kid that's a little quirky, because today you want to show them grabbing the girl and taking off in a car.
When I saw this movie, I was reminded of a movie I saw a couple of weeks ago called Author with Al Pacino, and he has a 15-year-old boy in that movie.
Smart.
His son, who is so smart and so wise, explains to Al Pacino how things work and has these wonderful insights into adult behavior and so forth. This kid, I think, is a lot more typical. He's still growing up. He's still learning about girls. He's learning about himself. I like that.
Yeah, the other thing is a writer's gimmick rather than a truthful character, I think, to get laughs out of the little body. Our next film is truly something special. It's Tron, an absolutely first-rate computer-age adventure film set inside the world of computer, and that's right, inside, telling the story of a young computer programmer, Jeff Bridges, who gets sucked into a computer when he challenges a computer company executive who has stolen his plans for some very successful video games.
You shouldn't have come back.
Hey, it's the big master control program everybody's been talking about.
Sit right there. Make yourself comfortable. Remember the time we used to spend playing chess together? That isn't going to do you any good, Flynn. I'm afraid. Stop. Please. You realize I can't allow this.
How are you going to run the university if you can't even answer a few unsolvable problems? Huh? Come on, big fella, let's see what you got.
I'd like to go against you and see what you're made of.
You don't look a thing like your pictures.
I'm warning you. You're entering a big error, Flynn. I'm gonna have to put you on the game grid.
Games? You want games? I'll give you games.
Some trouble picking him up. He got scanned down those new memories now. Something must be up. This sort of priority pipelining doesn't happen often.
This guy won't last long. I can tell already.
Yeah, be careful. He could be dangerous. Some of these guys fight like tigers when they res up.
Oh, man, this isn't happening. It only thinks it's happening.
Vacate entry port, program. I said move!
They're going to play some computer games with this guy. They're playing for life and death. The big feature in this film is its computer-generated imagery that frees up the camera to take us on some amazing trips, as in this scene where Jeff Bridges and a friend are chased inside the computer by forces belonging to the computer's master control program.
Every game's Hank and the Grit.
Get them! I should never have written all those tank programs.
Target's leaving protected field. Fire! Fire! Missed! Commence rapid fire! All units exiting game arena.
All right, fast, get it. Go away, go right, go right.
We're coming in fast. Full stop. Full stop. Reverse.
You know, I think the word for that kind of stuff used to be neat. This is neat stuff. Tron is a whole lot of fun that simply dazzles, and in the process it also expands our notion of computers and the people who work with them and create them. And that this is a Walt Disney production is the nicest surprise of all, because before Tron, Disney films of late have been pathetic, unworthy of the Disney name. With Tron, though, Disney instantly is up to date, a truly exciting movie.
I love this movie. I got into it right away. The
Yeah.
sound is terrific. You can't really hear that on television.
On
I
the
suppose.
scale, on the scale.
The sound surrounds you, the size of the screen, the big screen, to see this on a big screen, and I got into this world and I had never seen anything like it before. You know, we talk oftentimes about the fact that movies can take us to places we've never been before. Tron
Yes.
took me to places nobody had ever been before,
Yeah.
and it made it, and it didn't explain everything with, you know, putting a label on everybody and explaining computers. It just assumed intelligence on the part of the audience.
That you would get it.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I'm not a big fan of computers, even though I write with one at my newspaper, but I sort of have a derisive attitude. I wish I had my old typewriter. And so, you know, I suppose it's a fear of this stuff. This film got me involved, and I have a new admiration for this whole world and for the people that do know it and do love it. I think it's a very appealing film. In addition, I would say see it in the biggest theater with the best sound system that you can possibly see it in, because I saw it in a big house in New York City, and it was fabulous.
I think, actually, that you're absolutely right, and the fact is the movie is really a technological triumph. I mean, the characters are one-dimensional at best.
Except for Jeff Bridges, who is terrific, I
Well,
think.
he's terrific, but even he is overshadowed by the fact that we have this enormous panoply of background and the computer universe, the landscapes and so forth, that is just so terrific to look at that the better the theater you can see it in, the more overwhelming the experience is going to be.
Well, look, here's a newcomer to the bad movie beat. It's Zeke, heralding the dogs of the week, the week's worst movies. What a face.
Well, Gene, my dog this week is, you're talking about me or the dog?
Yeah, both.
Terrific. My dog this week is named Humongous. It's about a bunch of teenagers who go joyriding in a yacht, and then one of the kids freaks out and starts driving the yacht around in a circle, piles it up on some rocks, and they swim ashore to an island that's inhabited by a cranky old lady and a lot of mad dogs. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot to happen in the first 10 minutes of a movie, and it doesn't. The fact is that in this movie, it all happens in the first 40 minutes. The mention of the mad dogs disturbs Zeke there. When the freaked-out kid is at the controls of the boat, they spend at least 10 minutes just telling him to watch it, and what happens after they land on the island? Well, let me put it this way. I saw this movie in a theater in Times Square in New York, and what happened then was the sound went off. Then the picture went off, and the audience put on a show. One kid shouted at the projection booth, put out that joint and turn on the picture. After an incredibly long time and several protests to the management, the sound finally did come back on, and after a while the picture came on, and then I heard one of the great natural critics of all time speaking from the dark in the back row, and he shouted, "Hey, this was better with the sound off."
Okay, well, my dog had the sound on all the way. My dog this week is called Vanessa, and sadly it has nothing to do with the talented Vanessa Redgrave. No, this is a tame little skin flick about the sex education of a girl raised in a convent and set free when she inherits a small fortune from her uncle, the bordello king of Hong Kong, who had the brains to realize, the movie tells us, that there is more money in sex than farming. He's a very bright guy. Vanessa is more of a travelogue than a sex show, and what sex there is tentative, nervous, and unerotic as this young heroine battles a ruthless lawyer and a sordid hangers-on. I think Zeke wants to see Vanessa, and he is interested, obviously, in her body and her fortune. The whole skin flick business seems to me to be in a real rut of late, and Vanessa is one of the reasons why.
Thank you, very much, Zeke.
You give certain dogs a chance and they'll go crazy on a show like
dog,
this.
I think he wants overtime. So much for the dogs and so much for Zeke.
Keep going.
Now let's take another look at the main movies on this program. We agreed on The Secret of NIMH, the animated fantasy about intelligent rats. 2 yes votes, especially for the skillful animation. And 2 more yes votes for The Devil's Playground, the story of the pressures and relationships inside an Australian seminary in the early 1950s. From Scotland, Gregory's Girl told the story of a young man's unrequited love for a girl who can play soccer better than he can. I like the movie's affectionate portrayal of teenage insecurity, and Gene also voted yes, although he felt the film bordered on being a little too cute. Finally, 2 very enthusiastic big yes votes for Tron, the dazzling new fantasy film from Walt Disney, which uses human actors and brilliant new animation techniques to take its characters inside the circuits of a computer universe. So, Tron's the big one, right?
Yeah, Tron's the big one. That's all for this week. Join us next time for more movie reviews, including A Midsummer Night's Sex comedy starring Woody Allen, Young Doctors in Love, a spoof of TV soap operas, and The World According to Garp with Robin Williams, based on John Irving's novel. That's next time. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for sneak previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.